Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Troy Griffin Chronicles podcast. I'm your host, Troy Griffin, and we've got an exciting topic that I want to talk about to you today. Um, in some cases, people have considered this something of a crossroads in their relationship when it happens to them. So I'm kind of excited to bring it up. So let's bring up the topic on the screen right now. Here's the question. The question is, huh, should your girlfriend or wife go out partying without their husbands or significant other? Is it okay? Is it fine? Is it okay for them to get out there and, you know, have some drinks, have a little fun, you know, maybe get up and dance? I don't know. Whatever happens when you go out without your significant other. And so sometimes that could bring you to a crossroads in your relationship if you've never had that happen to you before. And interestingly enough, it has happened to me on a few occasions, but it did happen to me fairly recently. And sometimes it puts you in an awkward situation. And I will tell you that the answer to the question of should your girlfriend or wife go out without, their significant other or their husband, it varies. And there are some variables that I think that need to be brought to the table for people to understand, whether or not that's a good thing or whether or not that's a bad thing. So let's talk about the variables. Okay, so these are some of the variables. First of all, it says going out partying with your friends. So we're going to need to evaluate firstly the friends. That's going to be one variable. Determining, short-term friend, long-term friend, what is the basis of that friendship, you know, what's going on there. Second thing we're going to talk about, is there alcohol involved? Are you going out to a spot where, you're going to be drinking and there's going to be a lot of maybe music playing and the alcohols is plentiful? That's going to be one thing that might be a discussion that you might want to discuss, and we're going to talk about that. Also, we're going to talk about what are the circumstances behind the event. What are we doing here? Are we just going out? Is this a regular thing that you do on a Friday night? Go out with your friends as opposed to your significant other or spouse? um, that could be an issue. And then lastly, what is the respect behind that? What do people feel? Is that a respectful thing? Is it disrespectful? How is that seen? How are you acting when you're out? How is the other person acting when they're out? Does it come across as disrespectful? That'll have a big part in whether or not that continues, and then also whether or not it builds a crossroads in your relationship. So those are some of the variables that I want to discuss. And so what we're going to do, we're going to bring it to the first situation, and that is your friends. And friends are very delicate because you've got a situation where you've got some short-term friends, people that you may have just met, and then you've got long-term friends, friends that have known you, may have known you well before the other person you're in a relationship with or what have you. So let's first discuss the short-term friends and if that's really a wise move. So let me give you a scenario. Let's say that your spouse or let's say your wife or your girlfriend um, is works, and at work they have new people coming to the office on a regular basis. And a lot of times when people at work meet new friends are like, hey, they're like a breath of fresh air in the office. They're very exciting. They're motivated to be there, and they're like, hey, here's what's going on. Um, I just broke up with a relationship, and they're giving their story about, oh, I was with him for 8 years, or maybe, maybe they're a serial dater. They've dated a few people and it just hasn't worked out. And so what they may be doing, and this typically happens with short-term friends, if they see you or your wife, for instance, or your girlfriend, and they're like, man, she's really cute, she's fun, she's, great person to be around, she could be my wing woman. We could go out and we can actually have fun together. Maybe I can meet a guy, or we could meet some guys or whatever. They're not really thinking about your situation with your boyfriend or spouse at home. That's not their concern. Their concern is, hey, are we going to have fun together when we go out? And you look good, I look good, we look good together. I'd rather go out with someone that's on my level in terms of looks and that kind of thing. And so if your spouse, you're the husband, your spouse, or you're the boyfriend and your girlfriend is really cute, personable, great person, they have a great personality, they're going to attract other people that are usually similar, or have similar interests, or they have, an interest outside of just, being friendly. Maybe they're like, "Oh man, she would be great for me to go and help me find a man," like that. So that could be an issue with a short-term friend because they're not really thinking about the ramifications of the actions of you going out with them. They're thinking more along the lines of, "What can you do for me? How can this make this a better situation for us?" Or they're just new in town and they just want to meet some new people. And you have to make that determination, as the wife or girlfriend. You got to figure out, okay, she's new in town. Find out a little bit more about her and find out, if that's what her intentions are, just to meet somewhere and be friendly, or if she's like, "Hey, let's go for drinks. I know this cute little spot that we can go to," and it just happens to be, it doesn't start till 9:30 at night or 10, and so then you're like, "This doesn't sound like a little get together. This sounds like we're going out." And so that could lead to potential problems in the relationship, especially if you're, and I'm speaking now from the husband or boyfriend's perspective. If you see your girlfriend or wife that's all of a sudden they've taken in a new interest in someone that's new that you don't know anything about them. All they did is they came home and said, "Hey, uh, I got a new friend. She wants to have drinks. Is that cool? I'm gonna go, hang out with her tonight or today." And so that's something you really gotta weigh that perspective on. And so I'm the type of person where I like to come up with solutions. So as a husband or boyfriend that's put in that situation, and maybe this is your first time getting it, what would be a solution for you, if that happens? And so here's one of my recommendations. Let's say she comes home and paint the scenario again. Hey, I met, a new friend. She wants to hang out. She wants to go get drinks and stuff. You say, "Hey, you know what? Hey, that sounds like a great idea. Tell you what, if it's okay with you, I would love to actually come out and meet your friend, and I'll take care of everything. I'll take care of the drinks, the food, the whole thing. Um, I just want to get a chance to meet, your new friend. And hey, I knew this great little restaurant. I know this cool spot we can go to that, since she's new in town, she may not know about. And I think it would be cool to do that." So that becomes your first play. And so the reason I say that's your first play is you have to weigh two things. You have to weigh, A, what is your wife or girlfriend's reaction? Is her reaction like, "Nah, I don't think that would be a good idea. I'd rather, I just met her. I'd rather do stuff just with her." Then you need to have a serious conversation with your girlfriend or wife as to what is the nature of your relationship. It's a little bit more serious than what you think because, in a sense, she is basically saying, "I'd rather go out with them than us go out with her." And she might come back with the old, "Oh, I don't want her to feel uncomfortable because she doesn't have a man. I don't want her to feel like a third wheel." Well, guess what? She's a new friend. You just met her. You really that concerned with that? That shouldn't be an issue. That should not be the issue at hand. So the way you can combat that, as the boyfriend or husband, the way you would come back from that is say, "Hey, look, I understand you're just getting to know her, but I kind of like to know who my wife or girlfriend's hanging out with. So I kind of want to get to know her once. If that's cool with you, that way I can kind of get to know her. I might have some friends that might be interested in her that I think, hey, that would be a good way for me to see if there's someone that I know that might be good for her as well." The other thing you can say is, "Okay, well, look, uh, wouldn't it seem like a better play if you guys, were to go maybe have some lunch together and stuff? You're already going out late at night. You know, it just feels a little weird." Just say that and see what her reaction is. If her reaction is, "Oh no, honey, it's not weird. There's nothing wrong with that. She's just new in town. She just wants to do something cool and fun." So here is how you can address that. And this is coming from, you know, a boyfriend or husband's, opinion. What you're basically going to say is, "Okay, honey, I understand. You want to go out with a friend and do that. That's cool. I know you're probably just getting to know her, that kind of thing. Hey, not a problem. Um, If it's cool with you, have a great time, but I'm actually probably going to go out myself. I've got a couple of friends that have been meaning to catch up with me, so I'm going to go out hang out with them too. Now, depending on how they respond to that, will also let you know into the insight of the relationship that you have with your significant other or spouse. If they have a problem with you going out, because let me tell you something, guys. I don't like to sit around and wait for anybody to come home, whether it's my kid, my wife, anybody. I'm not the sit at home type. I'm not going to sit at home and wait and wonder what's going on. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to go do something, you know. And so there has to be a level of respect that you command from your partner, whoever that is. You have to have something where you're saying, look, I'm not going to say you can't do something, but just know that if the situation were turned, I would be a little bit more respectful and I would actually invite you to come. And if it's just one friend, a new friend, then that's how I would handle it. Now, if it's a group of friends and now we're getting into the long-term friends scenario, that's going to be a different scenario. Long-term friends is definitely a more interesting situation because some of these long-term friends may have known your woman, your wife or girlfriend a lot longer than they've known you. And if that's the case that they've known them for a while and they were going out before you, whatever, here's what you want to look at. You want to look at A, do they have someone at home? Are they single or are they in a relationship? Um, because that also can cause maybe a possible issue down the road is that your long-term friend knows you knows no most cases knows who your partner or spouse is, and so they know you, and so you have to gauge what's the type of friend they are. If they're the type of friend that they just throw caution to the winds, they get tipsy, things like that, and they may not have any control over their actions, and they're looking at you as the DD or the designated driver, meaning the your wife or girlfriend as the DD. You don't want that situation. That's a bad situation because then she's in charge of everything, um, and it's just not plausible. If something were to go wrong and there was a guy that was a little too aggressive, you don't want your woman trying to fend off these types of things. So in that case, you are going to want to interject and put yourself in that scenario. And so that's why you wanna weigh what the situation is. You know, if it's a long-term friend, they should have enough respect for you to not take your wife or girlfriend to a club environment where there's a lot of heavy drinking involved, things like that. If they're doing that, then they personally don't have the respect for you. They should know better. You should establish that early in the relationship that, "Hey, honey, I will totally respect you. You know, I will take you out. Let's go do stuff together. I'm that kind of guy. I'm gonna fit the bill. I'm gonna take care of my responsibilities as a man. I'm gonna open the door. I'm gonna do all these things." And some people would say, "Oh, that might make you more of a simp, or you're not that type of guy." And I'm like, no, if it's your girlfriend or wife, you treat them with a lot of respect. The reason you treat them this way is that they understand that if there's ever a situation or a problem with your relationship, you already know how to do the next relationship. If you understand what I'm saying, you're that type of guy. You're the type of guy that women don't want to lose you because you're respectful, you're polite, and then you still got to carry a little swagger. You got to have a little bit of swag. And but at the same time be professional, polite, friendly, loving to your partner. So you can do all of that and still come off as, the alpha male. And so that doesn't mean you have to be disrespectful. You just have to be confident in who you are and confident in the way you treat your wife or girlfriend. So in terms of the long-term friend, they should already know the level of respect that you should have, that you should be commanding from each other. So I would say as long as they understand that, there are certain circumstances where they can go out, but here's the one precursor that I would say that leads to the next variable. So if we go back to our variables again, If this is involved, if alcohol is involved, then we might have a little bit of an issue. And when I say alcohol, I don't mean a glass of wine over dinner or a glass of wine over a lunch. No, I'm talking about drinks. I'm talking about, fruity cocktails, all kinds of things that can lead your woman down the wrong path. So let's talk about alcohol. Okay, so here's the basics. Most people know this in general. Most people already understand that alcohol is going to lead to possibly some poor decision making. I mean, that's a given. But let's look at this a little more specifically. So it basically says, if you go to the second sentence, says this can lead to feelings of relaxation, confidence, and lowered inhibitions. It can also cause physical reactions like loss of coordination, memory, and the ability to make good decisions. Excessive drinking is harmful. Okay, so excessive drinking is harmful in many ways, but the main thing to take from that is it says it could make you have the loss of the ability to make good decisions. And that's the thing you want to focus on because, quite frankly, if you look at the little picture here and you see the girls toasting to the good life, usually when they're toasting to the good life, it's, "Hey, we're having a good time, we're having drinks, woo, we're having a fun time," all that stuff. However, some people just can't handle their liquor. Some women can't handle their alcohol, and they've got a reputation of not being able to handle their alcohol. And so when that happens, and you see it many, many times when there's a group of women that may go out and certain women just look like they don't belong there. They look like they're done, for the night. And the other one's trying to take care of them, trying to make sure that they don't mess up. And then that leads to what could be a bad situation in terms of other people that are looking and seeing this. It could lead to anything. I mean, the main thing you don't want to have is your woman to feel unsafe in whatever environment that she's in. Now, I'm not saying that she's not able to take care of herself. What I'm saying is that you put her in a precarious, unusual situation where she's up against, people that are drinking, other people that are drinking. They've lost their inhibitions. She's lost her inhibitions. It could get a little shaky. And I mean, I wouldn't bring this up if there weren't so many breakups because of this type of thing. So these are types of things that you can do to avoid that. So remember, the thing that I like to come up with is solutions. So in any event, in any situation, if you want to feel comfortable, try to include yourself in the equation. Try to be that person that actually will step out and have a good time. If your wife knows that when you go out, it's more fun with you there, she'll want to bring you along. So, what can you do to make that happen? What can you do to bring up to make it so that, like, no, I want him to go. He's the life of the party. All right. Well, some of the things that I talked about before, you got to be able to carry yourself well. You got to be able to have that swag. You got to be able to be friendly, polite, but also, hey, you know what? It's a great time. We're gonna have fun. That's the whole point of going out sometimes is to have a good time. That's why you're there. So if you're that type of person where you can do that and it's more fun with you there than not, then chances are, they're gonna want to bring you, they're gonna want to invite you. And so it is your job as the man in the relationship, I would say, to actually have a positive attitude. Don't take the negative route right away. Just be like, oh, you know what? That sounds nice. You know what? In fact, I actually know of a place that would be that would be awesome for us to go. Or let's say they have, I'll tell you what, I'm going to buy the first round of drinks for the ladies myself. And then, whatever the case is, try to include yourself in there. If it's not welcomed, then you need to evaluate where you stand in your relationship. It's very important. Some people get away with it, but let me clarify something. Um, there is a misconception, um, and again, there's a misconception when it comes to um, alcohol and being out, and whether someone can take care of themselves or not, and whether they can be trusted or not. Sometimes you find out that the other person definitely can be trusted and they're very good at managing, mitigating risks. They're very good at that. The problem is I liken it to the same situation that you're an excellent driver. Let's say you are one of the best drivers. You always check both ways when you're crossing, when you're driving across the street. You always make sure that oncoming traffic is on their side of the road. You always try to be very careful. What you can't do is predict what others are going to do. And so you can try to gauge and try to see it, but if someone else is drunk and they're coming right at you, it's going to be hard for you to get out of the way and avoid that incident. And so let's bring it back to if you're going out and there's alcohol involved. Okay, so maybe you're choosing not to drink very much, but then that person that's been eyeballing you half the night has been drinking. And then finally they've got that liquid courage to come up to you. And then you politely curb them, or depending on what your mood is, maybe you're just like, it's not the time. I don't want to be bothered with you. And then you curb on a wide scale. That could lead to this person being very vindictive, being very petty, and saying something that you don't agree with. They might call you the B word, or they might hit you with something, and then you're just like, this, messing up my whole night. Oh no, it depends on how demure, how respectful your woman is, and how in control of her, you know, the way she speaks to others. It's important, if she may be drinking, she may have lost some of that. If she's had a couple drinks in her, she may not want to hold back like she would normally without the drinks, without the alcohol. So if that's the case, it could be an altercation, and all of a sudden, nobody's protecting your woman. You can say maybe the other girls are, but realistically, the only person that has a vested interest in protecting your woman is you. That's it. You're the main one. Now, if she has family there, they may step in. But the chances are, if your friends are asking to go party, you're probably not going to be inviting your uncle, or she's not going to be inviting her brother. It's going to be girls. And so that's why try to sometimes include yourself, and in most cases try to include yourself, and then see what her reaction is. So let's get back to circumstances. So in the first question that was asked, should you go out, with your friends without your spouse? My initial reaction was, oh, hell no. Don't do it. It could lead to problems, it could be an issue. But your woman is an adult. She's an adult. She can make her own decisions as well. And if she doesn't agree with you, you need to be able to speak about it and discuss it rationally. Don't just like shut it down. All right. You have to speak about it rationally. Let's not do ultimatums here. Let's do more of a respect thing. So if the circumstances are that, let's say that your long term best friend is having a wedding shower or a baby shower or something, and they want to go out, and you happen to be going out of town. And so she's like, "Hey, I know you're going out of town. My friend wants to go here. My friends want to go here. It's something we've been planning for a little while. So I'm just letting you know we're planning to go out there." So some of the things you can check, you can ask, say, "Hey, are any other guys going to be there? Are any other dudes going to be there?" And then, no. Then what you may want to do is, if the answer is yes, is you might want to reach out to them, say, "Hey, look, I'm going to be out of town. I can't make it. Can you keep an eye, make sure everything goes well with all the ladies there, whatever." You just want somebody to know that you actually care about what's happening there, and then if something goes down, you want to get that call. And if your woman can't make that call, they'll make that call. So that's one thing you could do. Another solution you could do is you could say, "You know what, honey? If you could do me a favor, I'm not going to be able to sleep comfortably knowing you're going to be out doing all these things. Can you hit me up, maybe a couple times while you're there? Just, text me, say everything's cool." That's cool. If it's circumstantial, you're going to have to let that person be an adult. Okay. You have certain standards. Obviously, you might want to say, "Hey, you know what? I'm not going to be in town. I'm not going to be able to rescue you in the case that something happens. Can you just curb the drinks a little bit? Don't drink too much." You're not telling them, you're asking, and that's the difference. If you can ask and they can, reciprocate that, that can lead to what I call the final variable, which is respect. You gotta have respect, and respect goes both ways. And so if we go back to our last variable, it's respect. And if you have that type of reaction where you're very respectful, you're asking and not telling, you're being, cordial about it, but at the same time, you're letting them know that you care. Um, they'll see that they're important to you, and that commands some respect, and that they're just asking for your behavior. if your wife cares about you or your girlfriend cares about you or loves you, they won't have a problem doing that. In fact, they'll probably do it anyway. I know my wife, she sends pictures all the time. She says, "Hey, look what we're doing. This is where we're at. This is what." Your woman has to respect you and she has to feel like she wants you to be a part of it. If you can't, sometimes I just don't want to go, but I'm not going to be disrespectful. I'm going to be friendly. And most of the time, I'm going to go. But if you don't want to go, be prepared. Be prepared to have that weird feeling like, oh man, my girlfriend's out, spouse is out without me. That's strange. I'm not used to that. Because it shouldn't be a normal thing. If it's a normal thing, it's a problem. And so the last thing I want to pull up is that when it's a problem, you got to remember what are the percentages of marriages that end in divorce? Okay. So if you read right there, 40 to 50% of first marriages end in divorce, 60 to 67% of second marriages end in divorce. You don't want that. I mean, there's a couple of things, and this applies to both girlfriends and wives, husbands, the whole thing, and boyfriends. In a relationship, breaking up when you're boyfriend and girlfriend, it can happen and it could lead to some devastating depression. It could lead to like, man, you really feel like you were, everything was going well. And then all of a sudden it falls apart. And it could be just a miscommunication thing. Maybe the way you handle the situation led to someone wanting to leave or just feeling like they feel trapped. You hear all these different things. And the way to combat that is the way that you communicate. And the key to the communication that you're going to have with your partner is some of the basics that I brought up. Ask, don't tell. Be friendly about it, be cordial, but let them know you care. Doing it from a perspective and not from a I'm in charge, you have to do what I say perspective is a little bit different. You can be a little bit forceful with it in terms of, hey, really, I want to take care of you. I want to make sure that you're well taken care of. I'm not overestimating. I know I was a guy, I've had that situation where there were women in relationships and just like that old song, "What's the man gotta do with me?" Sometimes that happens, and it usually happens when guys get the liquid courage going with the alcohol. Then they're like, "You know what? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Hey, this might be my night." And you may be the strong one, but maybe your friend's not. And the situation is alcohol is a crazy thing. It can make a lot of things happen. So the key is if your partner has the respect for you and you have the same respect for them, then chances are you guys are gonna be okay. You're gonna be good. Your partner can do certain things without you. You have to make sure it's in a positive light. Um, Include yourself. Be inclusive. There really isn't a lot of reasons why your partner should be going out without you, unless you're just a boring person. Then you got to work on that. You know. Here's the other thing I want to say, and this is what I kind of want to bring it home. I guess you would say. In terms of the way you live your life with someone, the way you can actually, live a positive life, have a good relationship with your partner. Um, Try to do certain things for them and certain things with them that are memorable to just you. So if that means taking a trip together, going out, doing certain things, try to do it on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be like Hawaii or something like that. I mean, if you got the means, do it. You'll have just as much fun. But it could be just a local trip. Just do some staycations, some things that are private that just between you and her to show you, that you care for that person. If you can do that, if you can do those little things, that person's going to want to include you on almost everything they do. They're going to want to make sure that you know what's going on. They know that you care about them, that you're important to them. That's the message you want to put across if it's your girlfriend or your wife. And if you can do that, then what you're doing in a sense is securing the fact that if those situations do come up, your partner has that respect for you already. They already know they've got a good man. If your partner knows they have a good man or significant other, they know what they could lose. And if you're that type of person, and I mean, let's be real. You know, if you're the type of person that you're let's say you've got an income, over 80 grand or 70 grand or 80 grand a year. Um, you're doing well. You're financially doing good. You've got things in place. You've got house, car, whatever it is. Your career is going well. Things are going well. They recognize that. They understand that. In some cases, they need to see that because they need to also understand that what you provide them can also be provided for someone else. So as the boyfriend or husband in that perspective, I'm saying get your game together. Make sure you're good. Make sure you're financially in a good position where no matter what happens, you come out good. Because here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to do something that's going to screw up the relationship, have you be in a depressed state, and then it affect your work and your business and whatever else you got going on. All of a sudden, you stop going to the gym, you're not taking care of yourself. Don't let that happen. That's an absolute no. That's a lose-lose because you lose your woman and then you lose your personal well-being. Don't do that. Always keep yourself tight. Make sure you put in at least a couple days at the gym. Make sure that when you're working, you focus and get the job done and make the money. You got to keep doing that. Hustle. If you have to do side jobs, hustle on the side jobs. Because the main thing is you got to keep yourself looking good because that's the person that they actually really wanted to be with in the beginning. You got to still be that guy. So whoever the relationship that you have with, whoever you're involved with, if they saw you in a positive light and you were a go-getter and you were aggressive and you were doing things, you should still be doing that. You shouldn't be chilling at the house all the time, not wanting to do anything. You got to get up off the couch, go do some stuff. You know, hey, bump up your wardrobe, start making some changes. Make her go, wow, look at you, you're looking good. Make that happen because in the bottom line, you're going to know that you're going to be okay. And that's what I expect of that. Now, I'm going to touch on this really quick, just a short thing. A lot of women will probably want to say, well, what about the husbands? What about the boyfriends, them going out with their friends? What's up with that? And what I say to that is you got to have that conversation at the very beginning of the relationship. If they're already going out with their friends and you have a problem with that, catch it early. Ladies, talk to your men. Say, hey, look, I feel a little funny about that. If your man doesn't want to bring you around to certain things that's happening, that could be a red flag. It could be an issue. Now, I'm not saying that it's always going to be that way because I know a lot of dudes that get together and they go watch the ball game together at someone's house, and that's their going out. No girls around, nothing. It's just some dudes drinking this kind of thing. And there's also situations where some ladies get together, they go over their girlfriend's house and they're just talking, and who knows what they're talking about. They could even be talking about dudes. Who knows? As long as they aren't acting on that and they're just being in the house doing all that and you're doing your part, you're still making sure that your stuff is good, don't worry about that. That's not the biggest issue. The biggest issue is are is your relationship sound? Is there open communication? Okay. So have that discussion in the beginning of the relationship, ladies. And if the man is like, look, I'm still gonna do me, I'm still gonna go with my boys, and hey, if that's the way it is, if you're uncomfortable, don't get into the relationship. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't have everything. Sometimes you got to compromise. And if that's part of the compromise that you're willing to do, and if you're like, as long as he's doing that and he's not going to the club or if he's not, taking trips to Dubai for like weeks on end and never comes home, that's different. But if if you have an understanding at the very beginning of the relationship, usually the men will be good with that. Now, if he's taking care of all your bills, everything, he's doing it all, then you really have to have that conversation to make sure you understand where his mindset is. His mindset, the man that you're attracted to, maybe that's the way he is. And if that's the way he is, you need to clarify that right now. If you have a problem, don't wait a year into the relationship to go, oh my God, I didn't know he was like that. Find out and have the conversation. So that's all I'm saying. Have the conversation. Once you have the conversation, then you can kind of go ahead and move forward with, the next step in your relationship. All right. Well, that's really all I have to say. We kind of covered all the variables. Thanks for stopping in. Thanks for listening in. Again, this is the Troy Griffin Chronicles podcast. I'm your host, Troy Griffin. Thanks again for stopping by. You guys have a great